Chosen one, something directed you to this message today that had nothing to do with chance. I want you to sit with that for just a moment before I say anything else, because what is about to happen in the next few minutes was not designed for everyone who might stumble across it. It was shaped for the person who has been carrying something they cannot fully explain. And I believe that person is you. You have been waiting longer than most people understand. Not passively. You have not been sitting down and drifting. You have been holding, actively, quietly, at significant personal cost, something you were told to trust, even when the evidence was slow. And somewhere in those long seasons of holding, something has been quietly and irreversibly forming in you, something that is now ready to be seen. The win I am talking about today is not what arrives in your hands, it is what opens in your eyes. It is the shift that happens when you stop searching for the sign that it is your time and finally recognize that your time has already begun. This is IT, not as a slogan, as an actual recognition of what is unfolding right now in your life in ways you have not yet fully named. Stay with me. What you are about to receive in this space was prepared for exactly where you are. And for those who want to go deeper after today, there is a resource I have placed in the description below and in the pinned comment. No pressure at all. It will be there when you are ready. Before we go any further, I want to tell you exactly what is waiting for you in this message, because I think you deserve to know why staying through all of it matters. By the end of this conversation, you will have 4 specific signs that tell you your season is turning, and I am going to help you see them clearly in your own life right now. You will also receive a word from one of the oldest languages in the world, a word that gives this exact moment you are standing in its actual name. And when you hear it, something is going to settle in you in a way it has not settled in a long time. You will understand the Elijah pattern, which is one of the most honest pictures in all of ancient wisdom about what win actually looks like after the valley. And at the very close, I am going to speak something directly over your life, not a generic blessing, something shaped for the person who has walked the road you have walked. If you leave before that moment, you will miss it. Stay with me all the way through. There is a specific kind of quiet that falls at the end of a long day. The kind where everything on the outside has finally gone still, but something on the inside is still asking questions. You may know that quiet right now, not as emptiness, as something alive beneath the surface, a thought that has not finished forming, a hope that keeps rising even when everything around it suggests it should have given up by now. I want to start there, right in that space, because what I am about to describe, I believe you have been living for longer than you have had words for. There are 4 things happening in the lives of chosen ones who are standing at the threshold of their win right now. 4 signs, not the dramatic kind, not lightning or visions or something you could record and show someone else. The kind that show up in the texture of your everyday life and are easy to dismiss as personality quirks or stress responses unless someone names them for what they actually are. Let me name them for you today. You know what it feels like when the environments that used to feel comfortable suddenly start to feel draining. The conversations you used to be able to sit in for hours now leave you tired in a way that has nothing to do with the time of day. The drama that once pulled you in no longer has a door in your heart. People around you notice that something has shifted in you, and they cannot quite explain it, and neither could you, until now. This is not you becoming difficult. This is not you losing your warmth or your compassion. This is your capacity expanding past what used to be your ceiling. Chosen ones who are about to win have outgrown the container they were in, and that outgrowth shows up as this quiet, unexplained intolerance for what used to feel tolerable. Something in you has grown past it. You know what it feels like when you want to create something, build something, make something, but you cannot quite name what it is yet. It is like having a melody in your head that has not yet found its words. The impulse is real, the restlessness is real, but the specific form is still slightly out of reach. And when you try to push it into familiar categories, career change, new direction, new project, none of the labels fit exactly. This is not aimlessness. This is new purpose knocking at the door before it has a name. The assignment is forming, the identity is catching up, and the creative restlessness you feel is the sound of something arriving. You know what it feels like when you begin to know things before they happen. Small things at first. The person who crosses your mind right before they reach out to you. The decision you almost made that you quietly pulled back from for no clear reason, and then you found out later exactly why. The sense of knowing that arrives before the evidence does. This is not anxiety. This is your discernment waking up. Chosen ones who are standing at the threshold of their breakthrough are no longer relying on information from the outside the way they used to. Something deeper has started to speak, and you are learning to hear it. And you know what it feels like when the timing of things stops making sense in the way it used to. The right person appears at the exact moment you needed them. The answer you have been looking for shows up in a conversation you did not plan to have. The door that had been stuck for years opens quietly on an ordinary afternoon with no ceremony and no announcement. None of it is explainable. All of it is undeniable. This is not luck. This is your life beginning to reorganize itself around what you have been prepared to carry. If those 4 things resonated somewhere real in you today, type the words, "I see it," in the comments below. Not to perform, just to seal the recognition. Let your own declaration mark this moment. And if this is the first time you have found this space, there are chosen ones walking this same path all across the world. This conversation continues here. If your spirit is finding something it has been looking for, stay connected. But here is what I want you to understand about those 4 signs. They are not predictions about what might come. They are evidence of what has already been happening inside you for a long time. And what those signs are pointing toward is something much larger than the signs themselves. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you next changes how you understand your entire history. Let me say something directly about the season you have been walking through, because I think the way most people frame it does a disservice to what has actually been happening. The season you have been in was not a delay. It was not a punishment. It was not evidence that you were overlooked. It was formation. There are 3 things that get built in a person during the kind of season you have been in, and none of them can be manufactured faster. The first is discernment. The ability to tell the real thing from the counterfeit, the imitation from the genuine, the voice of clarity from the noise of circumstance. That kind of seeing does not come from reading about it. It comes from years of being tested by it, years of watching what looks like the right thing reveal itself as the wrong thing, until your inner knowing becomes precise. You have been developing precision, not as a skill, as a way of being. The second thing is rootedness, not the kind that comes from having everything stable around you, the kind that forms when everything around you is shifting and you do not collapse. When the ground moves, and you find, often to your own surprise, that there is something in you that does not move with it. You have built that rootedness in conditions that would have taken a different person down. That is not a small thing. That is the foundation of what comes next. And the third is what I would call sovereign patience. Not passive waiting, not resigned endurance. The kind of patience that knows the difference between not yet and never, and holds steady in that difference without requiring constant proof that the answer is still yes. These 3 things, discernment and rootedness and sovereign patience, you have not read your way into them, you have lived them into your bones. Now, let me tell you about a man named Elijah. Elijah had just experienced the greatest moment of his calling. He had stood alone against hundreds of false prophets on a mountain called Carmel. He had called down fire from the sky. He had ended a 3-year drought with a single prayer. It was the most dramatic public win in the entire record of his ministry. And then, almost immediately, something strange happened. He ran into the wilderness and collapsed under a tree. And he asked to die. He said, It is enough. The most powerful prophet in Israel, the man who had just done the impossible, was lying in the dirt, asking for it to be over. Not because he had failed, because the wind had taken everything out of him. And what came immediately after it was threat and isolation and the feeling of being completely, utterly alone. Here is what I want you to notice about what happened next. There was no lecture, no rebuke, no voice saying, "Get up and fight. You won. Why are you sitting down?" What came was a gentle touch, and beside him, bread and water, warm and ready. And then these words, "Arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you. Arise and eat, because what is coming requires more than you currently have. So rest, be fed, because the journey is not over. It is only beginning to ask more of you." He rested again, was fed again, and then he walked 40 days to a mountain where he would hear the voice he had been prepared to hear. Not in the earthquake, not in the fire, in a still, small voice. The wind after the valley is always quieter than the valley was loud. That is not a disappointment. That is the nature of what is real. Now I want to give you a word from one of the oldest languages in the world, because this word names what is happening in your life right now, more precisely than anything I could say in my own language. It comes from Ecclesiastes. The writer says, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." The word translated as time in that sentence, in the original Hebrew, is the word et. Et does not mean time in the general sense, the way you would say it is time to eat, or I ran out of time. Et means the exact, specific, appointed moment, the precise slot that has been designated for this particular thing. Not sometime, not eventually. The specific window that was written into the design of your story before you were born. So when the ancient writer says, "There is a time for every purpose," he is not simply telling you to be patient because things work out eventually. He is saying that every purpose has an et, a designated moment, an appointed window that cannot be forced open early and cannot be missed if you remain in position. This is your et, this moment, not a motivational phrase, a cosmological fact. There is a technology we use today that the travelers of the ancient world would have called miraculous. When you make a wrong turn, the system does not cancel your destination. It does not tell you that you have gone too far off course to recover. It simply recalculates. The arrival point remains exactly as it was. Every detour you have been through did not change where you are going. It changed what you know about the terrain when you arrive. And that knowledge is not a consolation prize. It is the thing that makes you capable of holding what is waiting for you. What the ancient world encoded in story and metaphor, modern neuroscience has begun to document in laboratories. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake has spent over 3 decades studying exactly what happens in the mind of someone who has gone through the kind of formation we have been describing today. And what he discovered is not what most people expect. The prepared mind does not just survive the hard season. It develops something in the process that the unprepared mind simply does not have access to. He has spent his career building something around that discovery. And I will show you what it is in just a moment. But first, I want to mention something to you, because what Dr. Lake found connects directly to everything we have been talking about, and I would not feel right moving forward without sharing it. In his research into what is called the gamma frequency, the specific brain state that children carry naturally and that gradually diminishes under the weight of adult life, Dr. Lake developed something called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio track that uses a technology called brain entrainment to guide your brain back toward the gamma state directly. No years of practice required, no complicated routine. You put on headphones, you listen for 7 minutes, and your brain is invited back into the frequency it was designed to operate in. I will tell you a great deal more about this in just a few minutes. But if you already feel ready to explore it, the link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. It will be there when the time is right for you. For now, stay with me, because there is something specific I want to show you about the season you are entering, and it is going to change how you receive everything that follows. What I want to describe now is what this new season actually looks like, not as a guarantee about specific circumstances, as a description of characteristics, because chosen ones who are entering this season tend to experience the same 4 shifts. And naming them gives you something to recognize in your own life right now. The first is this: certain things begin to leave. Relationships that once felt central start to feel peripheral. Habits and environments and ways of spending time that were once comfortable begin to feel like clothing that no longer fits. And the leaving can feel like loss, because something is genuinely departing. But chosen ones who are entering their win tend to misread this as collapse when it is actually completion. What looks like subtraction is making space. What feels like ending is graduation. You are not losing what mattered. You are releasing what no longer belongs to the person you have become. The second shift is that your energy begins to develop a direction. If you have spent a long time feeling scattered, pulled in several directions without a clear sense of which one genuinely matters most, something begins to change in this season. Not dramatically, quietly. A clarity emerges about certain things that was simply not available before. A sense of which direction actually calls to you underneath all the noise. You do not have to force it or manufacture it. You notice it beginning to happen on its own, like a compass that has finally been allowed to settle. The third shift is that things which previously felt like struggle begin to feel like alignment, not necessarily easier, but purposeful in a way that was missing before. You take a step, and something in you confirms it, not always loudly, but in a way that cannot quite be dismissed. The friction that defined so much of the previous season begins to give way to something that feels more like movement and less like resistance. And the fourth shift is that new connections appear who speak a language you have been thinking in but rarely heard from other people. There is something about these connections that feels less like coincidence and more like coordination. What some would call destiny, beginning to take its shape, beginning to embrace the form that was always intended, and drawing toward you the people and the purposes that belong to where you are going. If someone came to mind while I was speaking just now, someone who is in their own long season and needs to hear this today, before we continue, gently press the like so this message can travel further. Not for any other reason, because someone out there is waiting for exactly what you just received. And stay with me all the way to the close of this message, because what I am going to speak over your life at the end, I believe, is one of the reasons you were guided here today. Do not leave before that moment arrives. Before I show you what your win looks like in the most specific and practical terms, there is something about what has been happening inside your mind during this entire season of preparation that I have to tell you. Because once you understand this, it changes the way you receive everything that follows. And I believe it is the part most people never hear. Let me be clear about what I want you to carry from this conversation, because clarity here is part of the win itself. Here is the WHY. What has been happening in your mind during the long season is not what most people assume. When a person remains in purposeful holding over an extended period of time, not passive stagnation but active, intentional, faithful waiting, the brain builds something that the brain of quick confirmation does not build. It develops the capacity to distinguish signal from noise, to filter out the imitation with precision, to recognize what is actually real without being misled by what only appears real. What felt like seasons of having things taken from you was actually seasons of capacity being added. You were not being emptied. You were being made capable of more. Here is the what. In this conversation today, you have been given 4 signs that tell you your season is turning. You have been given the Elijah pattern, which tells you that the win arrives after the deepest valley and that rest is not weakness, but preparation for what is next. You have been given the Hebrew word et, which tells you this is not eventually but now, the specific appointed window. And you have been given the image of the recalculating system, which tells you that every detour was completing your preparation for the destination, not pulling you away from it. And here is the WHO. The person designed for the season beginning right now is not someone who arrived without difficulty. It is someone who held long enough in the right posture to become specific. Specific in their discernment, specific in their rootedness, specific in what they are now prepared to carry. And what I am about to share with you is designed precisely for that person. I want to say something to you before anything else. The chosen one who has walked through years of preparation, who has developed discernment and rootedness, and the kind of patience that does not collapse under pressure, has a quality of mind that researchers have now been able to measure and document: a gamma state, a brain frequency that every human being is born with, that children carry at extraordinary levels, and that the cumulative weight of adult life gradually suppresses without most people ever realizing it happened. You were born with access to something the word genius, in its original sense, was always pointing toward. Not a competitive superiority, a quality of knowing, a way of perceiving and connecting and understanding that goes beyond what the ordinary survival frequency allows. That access did not disappear. It went dormant. And there is a way to bring it back. Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years mapping exactly this. His work, conducted in collaboration with teams at MIT, Princeton, and several other leading research universities, confirmed what was already encoded in the oldest wisdom traditions, that the human mind has a restorative state available to it, and that restoration is not primarily a matter of effort, it is a matter of frequency. Let me tell you about a woman named Sarah. She was 47 years old, had been walking a long season of faithful waiting in her own life, and described her mind as foggy in a way she could not shake. She began listening every morning for 7 minutes with her headphones in. After 3 weeks, she made a decision she had been circling for 5 years. She did not describe it as finally choosing. She said, "My mind stopped arguing with itself." She did not receive a new brain. She received back the one she was born with. For over 3 decades, research has documented the role of gamma brainwaves, oscillating above 40 cycles per second, as the signature of the human mind in its most connected, most capable, most alive state. These waves are measurably present in children at remarkable levels, and then the decline effect begins, typically around age 7, as the stress systems of early education and social pressure gradually suppress the gamma signature. By adulthood, most people are operating at a fraction of what they were designed for. Over 18,000 people have now used the tool Dr. Lake built around restoring it. Under 4% have ever asked for a refund. That is not a marketing line, that is a quality signal. I know there is a part of you that has tried things before, methods and practices and tools that promised something and delivered something smaller. This is not the same category. This does not ask for effort or discipline or adding a complex routine to your already full life. It operates at a different layer, the frequency layer, and the brain does not require your permission to respond to sound. It simply does. And I know that any investment requires trust, especially for someone who has already given so much in this season. I do not take that lightly. So let me be fully transparent about what you are receiving. The Genius Song is a 7-minute digital audio track developed by Dr. Robert Lake after 34 years of neuroscience research. You put on your headphones, you close your eyes, you listen. That is the entire requirement. Nothing else to manage, nothing else to do, just 7 minutes. If you wanted to pursue this kind of brain state through other means, a monthly subscription to a mindfulness app runs around $15 with no specific gamma calibration. A single session with a biofeedback therapy clinic costs approximately $150, and you would need multiple sessions. A weekend mental clarity retreat runs anywhere from $400 to $800. None of these specifically target the gamma frequency. None of them are calibrated for brain entrainment the way Dr. Lake's technology is. The original price for the Genius Song is $49. Already a fraction of any of those alternatives. But for those receiving this message, Dr. Lake has made it available at $39, exclusively through this conversation, not available on Amazon or anywhere else. At that $39, you also receive 4 bonuses at no additional cost. The first is called Genius Child, a 6-minute audio calibrated specifically for children's brains before the decline effect takes hold, valued at $19 on its own. The second is the classic book, the original text that the film The Secret drew its inspiration from, a practical book about financial principles valued at $20. The third is a 22-minute guided visualization that walks through 4 areas of life, valued at $29. And the fourth is a 5-habit infographic documenting the daily practices of those who have maintained their gamma activation long-term, valued at $12. The total value of those 4 bonuses alone is $80, and they come with your $39 purchase at no additional cost. And if you try the Genius Song within 90 days and feel it is not for you, you receive a full refund. No questions, no conditions, no need to return anything. And you keep every bonus. All 4 of them. Dr. Lake stands behind this because the research stands behind it. Here is something I want to say honestly. The version of you sitting in this moment, after everything this conversation has named and opened, is more prepared to receive this than the version of you who might come back to it next week. The appointed window, is not a metaphor. It is a real thing. And the clarity you are in right now is the exact clarity in which this tool lands most deeply. Do not let this moment close without at least reading the details below. One important thing before you search anywhere else. The Genius Song is only available through the official page at chosenrise.com/song. If you find it on any other site, it is not the calibrated version. The entrainment technology only functions correctly when it is properly produced. Go directly to the source. The link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. It is there for you when you are ready. And if something in this conversation has landed somewhere real for you right now, type the words, "I am ready," in the comments below. Not as a transaction, as a declaration over your own life. Now I want to talk about something that nobody prepares you for when you are standing at the edge of your win. And it is one of the most important things I will say in this entire message. The closer you get to what was always intended for you, the louder a very specific fear tends to get, not the fear of failure. Most chosen ones have learned to carry that one. The fear I am talking about is subtler and more personal than that. It is the fear that what you are about to receive, you will somehow unknowingly damage or lose or be unable to hold. The fear that the moment you actually win, something in you will find a way to take it apart. Hear me on this clearly. That fear is not a warning that you are not ready. It is evidence that you are. The people who collapsed after breakthrough had no fear because they had no awareness of the weight they were carrying. Your fear is your reverence, and reverence is exactly what the kind of win you are being trusted with requires of you. So, before we close, let me give you something specific. You are allowed to receive what has been prepared for you. You are allowed to win without spending the rest of your life waiting for it to be reversed. You are allowed to hold something good without bracing yourself in advance for it to be taken back. You are allowed to be exactly who you have become through every season that tried to convince you that you were wrong for feeling this calling. And you do not owe anyone a smaller, quieter, more manageable version of what you have been built to carry. Now let me tell you who you are, not who you are becoming, who you are, right now, after everything you have walked through. You are the victor, not the one who won because everything went right, the one who is still standing because they made a decision somewhere in the middle of a season where stopping would have made complete and total sense, not to stop. That is not luck. That is not personality. That is a choice made again and again in the dark when no one was watching and no one would have blamed you for walking away. That is you. You are the pioneer. You have been going somewhere first, into territory that had no established road, no map you could reference, no one ahead who had been exactly where you were going. Not for yourself alone. The things you have learned on this terrain, the things that cost you everything to understand, are going to become the path for people who come behind you. You did not wander through all of this. You led, even when you were the only one who knew it. You are the voice. There are things moving in you that the world does not yet have adequate language for. And the reason you have been through exactly what you have been through is that you are now capable of giving those things language, of speaking what other people feel in the dark, but cannot yet articulate in the light. That is not a small calling, that is a necessary one. You went in waiting, and you came out anchored. You went in asking, and you came out knowing. You went in afraid of the light, and you came out being it. You went in carrying the question of whether you were truly chosen, and you came out with the evidence written into every single season you have walked through. And do you remember what I said earlier about the recalculating? Every detour you took, every route that seemed like a setback, every path that made no sense at the time, not one of them moved your destination. They completed your preparation for what that destination requires of you now. You are not behind schedule. You arrived exactly when you were meant to. Before we close, I want to do one thing with you, just for a moment. In your mind, I want you to see a doorway, not a dramatic one, a simple threshold, the kind you would walk through without any fanfare or ceremony. And on the other side of it, there is no specific image, just light, just a feeling of clarity, just the sense of what it is to arrive somewhere you have always, in some quiet part of you, known was yours. Do not talk yourself out of standing there. This is not imagination. This is rehearsal. The mind moves toward what it has already practiced entering. Bring that with you now, into what I am about to speak over you. 9 months ago, a chosen one I will not name was at the lowest point of his prepared years. He had done everything right. He had held faithfully for a long time, and nothing visible had moved. He made a decision. 40 days of silence. He stepped back from everything external. No explanations to anyone around him. No promotion of himself or what he was building. Just alignment, quietly, consistently, every single day. On day 36, a door opened that he had knocked on 4 years earlier. Not a door he forced. Not one he engineered or pushed through with willpower. A door he had simply remained the right size to walk through. He did not promote himself before he had proven himself in the quiet, and the door came to him. I believe you are closer to your day 36 than you think. You brought something into this space today, and I want to acknowledge it before we close. You brought the weight of a long season. You brought the question you came in with, and you stayed through all of this. That is not nothing. That is the posture of someone who has not finished believing. Right now, all across the world, chosen ones are receiving this same message, sitting in the same threshold you are sitting in, carrying the same kind of quiet, stubborn hope that will not let go, even when everything around it says it should. You are not alone in this threshold, and you never have been. In your mind, picture the question you came in with today. The one that sounds something like, when is it my turn? Picture it sitting in your hands, not as something you failed, not as something you should have released long ago, as something you held faithfully for exactly as long as it needed to be held. You can set it down now, because the asking is done, and the receiving has already begun. You are the victor who chose not to stop when stopping was the easiest and most forgivable thing available. You are the pioneer who went first into unmapped territory so that others could one day have a road. You are the voice, and what you carry is not for you alone to keep. It belongs to a world that is waiting for someone to say it out loud. And in this moment, I hear something being spoken over you. Something I believe is true for the person you have become through all of this. What you thought was the end of your waiting was actually the beginning of your winning. Receive that. Let it land without argument or condition. Type 777 in the comments if that landed somewhere real in you just now. Let it be your seal over this moment. And so it is, not as a formality, as a fact that now belongs to your story. If this message landed somewhere real for you today, let your like be your agreement over what was spoken here, not for me, as your own seal over this conversation. If someone came to mind during this message, someone who has been unusually quiet lately, someone who is carrying something they have not been able to explain to anyone around them, someone who has almost let go of something they were never meant to release, share this with them. You may not fully know how much they need it, but something in you already knows exactly who they are. And if this is a space where your spirit continues to find what it has been looking for, stay connected. More words are being prepared for your next season.